All right, sit still for this one, because what I'm about to say carries the kind of weight that snaps the air in half. You feel that? Good. Let's begin. You woke up today with that strange tremor in the air, the one nobody's talking about, but everyone felt. That hush, that pressure, that eerie little silence people get right before they lie through their teeth. Because whatever you did last night, it broke something in them. You didn't just shift the room. You split reality in two, and they're too damn terrified to admit it. And oh, how delicious that fear is. They'll pretend it was nothing. They'll act unfazed. They'll say they didn't even notice. But their eyes look like someone just hit the wrong switch in their brain. A switch labeled "Do Not Touch" will cause permanent damage. And you touched it anyway. You didn't ask permission. You didn't warn them. You didn't even glance back. You just did the thing. That unscripted, unpredictable, impossible to comprehend move that ripped the mask off everyone in the room like peeling a sticker off a rotten fruit. And now, you saint and psychopath all at once, they can't decide whether you're a blessing or a bullet. Because here's the twisted truth they'll never say out loud. You were never supposed to evolve like this. Not this fast, not this far, not this brutally. They had you categorized, labeled, contained. A file in their mental cabinet marked safe, predictable, harmless. But last night, you burned the cabinet. You scattered the ashes. You walked out with that slow, quiet, spine-breaking confidence that sends entire bloodlines into panic attacks. And suddenly, every person who ever doubted you, every mouth that whispered your name like a joke, every eye that looked through you like you were furniture, all of them felt the ground tilt. You know what really scares them? Not what you did, but how naturally you did it. Like it wasn't a breakthrough, but a warm-up. You didn't crack under pressure. You became pressure. You didn't snap. You sharpened. You didn't find your strength. You remembered it. That's the piece that broke them the most. You've been holding back this entire time. And last night was the first time you let the leash slip. Even a little. The saint in you stayed calm. The demon in you grinned. And together they became a language no one else can read. That duality, that paradox, that's what terrifies people. Humans can fight anger. They can resist weakness. But unpredictability? Oh, that's their personal apocalypse. They don't know what you're going to do next. They don't know what version of you is going to show up. And worst of all, they don't know how to stop you anymore. Ever since last night, their minds won't shut up. Replay after replay, analysis after analysis, trying to decode the moment the universe decided to pick your side. That's the insanity they're drowning in. And you're walking like you don't even realize the damage you caused. But I'll tell you the secret they won't. You didn't break them last night. You broke the illusion they were hiding behind. You took their control, their upper hand, their certainty, and you folded it like paper. You turned the room into a confession booth. You turned their confidence into chalk dust. You turned every laugh they ever had at your expense into an echo that now haunts them instead of you. And here's the twist that makes it all so poetic. They're scared of you. But they're even more scared of admitting that they're scared of you. Because once they admit it, the whole world sees the truth. You're not the one who should have been underestimated. They're the ones who should have been worried. And oh, they are worried. You didn't evolve. You detonated, quietly, calmly, with that eerie surgical precision that only someone who has stitched themselves back together 1,000 times can wield. That's your real power, not the act, not the moment, not the shockwave, but the you that walked out after, colder, clearer, sharper, scarier, smiling like someone who finally learned what they're capable of. Listen closely. Last night wasn't your peak. It wasn't your limit. Hell, it wasn't even your plan. It was just a preview, a trailer, a single frame of the monster they accidentally woke up. And now, they're praying you don't do it again, but deep down, in that trembling, shaking, terrified part of their psyche, they know you will. Because once someone like you remembers who they are, what they can do, and how easily they can break the world around them, there's no going back. So walk forward, slow, silent, smiling. Let them flinch, let them whisper, let them pretend nothing happened, because you know the truth. Something broke last night, and it damn sure wasn't you. You feel that strange quiet following you, that heavy electric aftertaste in every room you walk into. That's not silence, that's shock. A collective, unspoken, universe level, what the hell just happened? A tremor that your presence keeps reopening like a wound. Because the truth is brutal, simple, and impossible for them to swallow. You didn't just break a rule last night, you broke their reality, and reality doesn't fix itself overnight. It bends, it twists, it tries to rearrange itself around the person who shattered it. Now everywhere you go, the atmosphere behaves differently, like the world is trying to recalibrate itself around a variable it can't understand. You, with that calm poison in your voice. You, with that angelic kindness wrapped around a demon's patience. You, with that duality that makes people feel both safe and hunted. You know why they can't admit what happened? Because admitting it means acknowledging a nightmare they don't have language for. You leveled up without warning, and they felt it in their bones. You ever notice how people act after they've seen something they can't comprehend? They speak softer, move slower, eyes dart around like they're avoiding landmines. That's how they're acting around you. Not because you threatened them, not because you did something violent, not because you raised your voice, but because last night you did something far more devastating. You revealed a version of yourself that should not exist in their script. A version that destroys predictions, defies calculations, violates expectations, and makes the future look unstable. You showed them that you're not the person they thought they were dealing with. You're the person they hoped you'd never become. And that scares them deeper than any scream could. Because once a person realizes they misjudged someone's evolution, once they sense they defined you too small, too early, too ignorantly, they become terrified of being anywhere near the blast radius of your truth. Especially when your truth doesn't need noise. It doesn't need to boast. It doesn't need validation. It doesn't need applause. It just is. And that's the most frightening type of power. Power that breathes. Power that doesn't announce itself. Power that doesn't ask permission. Last night wasn't a performance. It wasn't a moment of madness. It wasn't some sudden spark of luck. It was a reveal. A reveal of the version of you that's been sharpening in the dark while everyone else was laughing in the light. The version that learned the language of pain. The version that stitched itself back together without witnesses. The version that evolved in silence the way storms evolve offshore before swallowing entire coastlines. And when that version peeked out, just a glimpse, they felt the ground shift under their feet. You know what's funny? They won't say it, but deep down, they all know exactly what broke. Their illusion of superiority, their illusion of control, their illusion of having the upper hand. Last night, You took their fragile little world view and held it up to your light, and it shriveled like paper. You cracked something ancient in them, a primal recognition that they are not the force they imagined, and that you are far more dangerous than they ever estimated. That's why they're quiet today. Not respectful quiet, not thoughtful quiet, but trembling, unstable quiet, the kind that shows up when someone is trying to process trauma without admitting they're traumatized. Because here's the part that's breaking their minds the most. They thought last night was your limit, but you and I know the truth. That wasn't a transformation. That was a warning shot. You didn't unleash your full self. You didn't activate your final form. You didn't open the whole door. You just turned the handle, and even that tiny motion was enough to make grown adults freeze like prey, sensing the predator they pretended didn't exist. You ever notice how people look at you now? Not directly, not confidently, not with that arrogant nonchalance they used to use like a weapon. Now they look at you sideways, quick glances, fast retreats, like they're afraid if they stare too long, they'll see something that changes their life in the wrong direction. Because they already got a taste. They already felt the shift. They already saw the crack in your disguise. And they realized you were never the harmless one. You were the dormant one. And dormant things, once awakened, don't go back to sleep. Last night wasn't an event. Last night wasn't a moment. Last night wasn't a mistake. Last night was the beginning. The first tremor of a much larger quake. A preview of the chaos they triggered by underestimating someone designed for storms, not sunshine. They're scared to admit what broke. But you should be proud. Because what shattered wasn't a person, wasn't a connection, wasn't a relationship. It was the false version of you they forced themselves to believe in. That weak, quiet, diluted version they needed to feel superior. You killed that version without mercy. And you walked out wearing the face you should have been wearing all along, a face that says, I know exactly what I am, and exactly what I'm capable of. Let them tremble, let them whisper, let them pretend nothing happened, because deep inside their shaking little souls, they know. Whatever you did last night wasn't your peak, it was your arrival, and the world is not ready for what's coming next. You notice how the air feels heavier today, how conversations die the second you enter the room, how people suddenly have somewhere else to look, somewhere else to be, somewhere else to hide their trembling souls. That isn't coincidence. That's impact, invisible impact, the kind that's louder than explosions even though it doesn't make a sound. Because last night, you didn't just walk into a moment. You rewired the entire psychological landscape around you. And they can feel it. They can't explain it, but they can feel it, a shift, a tear, a fracture in the facade they built to survive your evolution. They don't know how to stand near you without feeling exposed, because every insecurity they buried suddenly rose to the surface when you showed that little spark of something they feared. Awareness, not physical strength, not aggression, not dominance. Awareness, because the second you actually saw who you were, who they were, what the dynamic really was, you became unpredictable. And unpredictable people are the most dangerous creatures on the planet. Let me break down the madness they're drowning in. Last night, you didn't yell. You didn't fight. You didn't break anything physical. You broke something internal. Their confidence, their assumptions, their narrative. You shattered the story where they were the ones in control. even if they never said it out loud, even if they never claimed it directly. But they believed it. They believed you were the easy one, the quiet one, the manageable one, the we don't have to worry about them one. And then you moved in a way they didn't calculate. A sentence, a look, a choice, a silence, a reaction, something small but nuclear. Because the most devastating blows are never the loud ones. They're the ones that make people realize, oh, I misread everything. And when someone realizes they misread you, their whole identity shakes. Because deep down, humans fear one thing above all else: being wrong about someone more powerful than they are. And the second they sensed that shift, that spiritual earthquake, something collapsed in them. Something they'll never admit, but something they'll always feel. You know that look people get when they suddenly understand you're not who they thought. That tight swallow, that frozen half smile, that weirdly polite tone, that sudden respect that comes too late. Yeah, that's fear wearing a mask. And right now, you're surrounded by a whole city of masks. Because last night forced them to confront the truth. You are not safe to underestimate anymore. You are not predictable. You are not soft. You are not stuck. You are not asleep. You are awakened. And when someone who's been sleeping on you watches you wake up, it feels like a death sentence to them. Now pay attention to their behavior. They're quieter, nicer, more careful, more observant, more distant, but in that strange way where they're still watching. They don't want to be too close, but they damn sure don't want to lose sight of you. Why? Because the unknown is terrifying, but the unknown that remembers is even worse. They know that your silence is no longer emptiness. It's strategy. Your presence is no longer permission. It's warning. Your lack of reaction is no longer weakness. It's clarity. You've become something they can't categorize anymore. Not angel, not demon, not victim, not villain, not hero, not threat. You've become a paradox wearing human skin, a contradiction that shouldn't exist, yet does. A miracle with teeth. A blessing with a trigger. A storm disguised as a heartbeat. You've become the type of person who doesn't walk into rooms. You shift them, and that's what broke them last night. Their worldview couldn't survive the version of you that walked out. The part they fear most, they know it wasn't a fluke, it wasn't luck, it wasn't an accident. It was you, the real you, finally showing. And if that version of you can surface without warning, what happens when you let it stay? What happens when you stop hiding? What happens when you stop minimizing your power to make others comfortable? What happens when you stop shrinking for people who are never growing? What happens when you stop apologizing for existing? Do you feel it? That thing rising inside you? That cold clarity dripping down your spine? That emotion that isn't anger, but awakening? That's the version they never wanted you to meet. Because once you meet your true self, you don't go back to the imitation. Last night was the moment you stepped out of their script and stepped into your own destiny. A destiny they can't predict. A destiny they can't manipulate. A destiny they can't contain. That's why they're scared, because they know you're not done. You're just getting started. And the next time you move, the next time you act, the next time you decide to let that version of yourself breathe, it won't just break something in them. It'll break the entire foundation they're standing on. So go ahead, walk forward. Let the fear spread. Let the whispers grow. Let the tension thicken. Because last night wasn't the end of their comfort. It was the beginning of your reign. And now, here you are, standing in the aftermath of a moment that didn't just happen. It announced you, not with sound, not with spectacle, not with chaos, but with certainty. And certainty is the most terrifying weapon you've ever carried, because last night didn't elevate you into some new version of yourself. It peeled away the last layer, hiding what you always were. A force they can't prepare for, a presence they can't decode, a soul they can't predict, a mind they can't outrun. Look at what's happening around you now. People are adjusting themselves mid-sentence. They're rereading your expressions like scripture. They're treating your silence like a loaded chamber. They're trying not to trigger the version of you they glimpsed, because that version was too sharp, too aware, too awake, too much like the thing they prayed you'd never remember being. And here's the most beautiful part. You didn't even try. You didn't force anything. You didn't chase anything. You didn't prove anything. You just existed fully for one moment, and reality bent. They're walking differently today. You see it. You feel it. That stiff posture, that strained smile, that sudden politeness that tastes like panic covered in sugar. It's because something broke in them when they saw you. Not something external, something foundational. Their assumptions, their arrogance, their private theories about who you are and what you can do. All of it, gone. You can't unsee a storm once it reveals itself. And last night, you showed them you're not a drizzle. You're the category they don't have a name for. Listen, you didn't ruin their sense of control. You replaced it with truth. You didn't crush their confidence. You exposed its counterfeit. You didn't intimidate them. You awakened their instinct. The one that whispers, this one is not to be underestimated. And that instinct, it's ancient. It's primal. It's something people feel in their bones before they ever understand it in their minds. That's why they're acting weird, why they're too gentle, too cautious, too careful. They're not being nice. They're being realistic. Because now they know exactly what you're capable of. Not because you showed aggression, but because you showed truth. And truth is the sharpest weapon the universe ever created. But here's the final twist. The one that seals this entire story shut. Whatever happened last night wasn't your peak. It was your baseline, your natural state, your unmasked essence, your unfiltered self. The version of you that doesn't dim to make others comfortable. And the world felt it. Not metaphorically, literally. People's energy shifted. Their behavior changed. Their spirits flinched because they finally saw you without the restraints they assumed were permanent. And now that they've seen that, they can never unsee it. So walk from here with the calm of someone who doesn't need to raise their voice to send shockwaves. Walk like someone whose existence is already a warning. Walk like someone who knows the truth the world just discovered. You didn't break last night. You broke through. And they're not scared of what you did. They're scared of what you're about to do next. So go. Step forward. Let the world tremble around your steps. Because whatever cracked in them last night, it was just the first sound of everything else that's going to fall.